Can Shane McMahon become all elite? We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're also going to talk about a huge AEW announcement and some very interesting news surrounding Joe Hendry in WWE. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ango Show. I, of course, am Ango, and we are going to kick things off with some Joe Hendry news because, quite honestly, this is fascinating, especially when you consider that Joe Hendry is not a WWE superstar and he is contracted to TNA Wrestling. Fightful Select has reported that Joe Hendry is expected to make more appearances for WWE NXT in the future. Officials were said to be very happy with the reaction that he received. TNA was happy that the storyline with Kazarian also continued on NXT, and some people obviously wish he had a little bit more time. What's even crazier, though, is that the video of Joe Hendry's debut on NXT had over 6 million views on YouTube, and it's made it the most watched video for the channel since WrestleMania 40. And this is obviously something that he is discussing quite often because this is one of the most watched clips on TikTok as well. Joe Hendry had put out a tweet and he said that this is WWE's most liked video since WrestleMania 40. This guy is absolutely on fire. It helps a lot that his theme song has gone viral. It helps a lot that this guy has been putting on some great television with AJ Francis and Frankie Kazarian. Honestly, like, I don't know really how to criticize Joe Hendry being on NXT. I think it's a win-win for both companies. Obviously, for WWE, they're getting the benefit of people talking about it on social media, but at the same time, so is TNA, because now TNA has a wrestler going viral for their performance on WWE television, and ultimately, I'm hoping it leads to people coming back to TNA. With that being said, I gotta kind of point this out. WWE, Joe Hendry, what could potentially be of this partnership, right? And I think one of the big things that we need to discuss, and it's not something that we see too often in the world of wrestling, but I would suggest maybe doing a loan. And the way that I would propose this is that if WWE sees some long-term possibilities with Joe Hendry, maybe, just maybe they can pay Joe Hendry to be on NXT and basically like relieve TNA of paying for Joe Hendry, if that makes sense, for a short period of time. A loan system. TNA loans Joe Hendry out, WWE pays, and WWE gets to utilize him. I think this would be a really cool thing if they actually start to put him in the mix, not just a special appearance because he's from TNA, but like actually more involved in NXT storylines. WWE has NXT Heatwave, which is coming soon. We know that they're going to have a variety of events throughout the year. This guy is a major hit. I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. Let's talk about this huge AEW announcement. AEW is making their debut in Cardiff, Wales. And this is something I've been talking about for a long time, guys. I've been saying for a long time it needs to happen, and it is happening once they go to for Wembley Stadium, So basically, here's what need to know. August 21st, 2024, AEW will be doing Dynamite and Collision. The tickets go on sale on June 28th. If you are an AEW insider, you could get early access to the tickets. They will be taping Collision as well. Obviously, we all know that the time zone difference between America and the UK, it's clearly a big difference. So probably very much like WWE, that's how this will go down. I think when WWE goes to the UK, locally people will be able to watch it live, but then it's on a tape delay for those watching it back home in America. I'm assuming that AEW will do the same thing. This is the first time that they're doing a Dynamite and a Collision in the UK. Obviously, bringing it to Cardiff, Wales, it's a smart idea. The flyer, the match promo, I mean, it has a lot of their top talent: Ospreay, Mercedes, MJF, Claudio, Saraya, Orange Cassidy, Pac, Tony Storm. Look, here's the reason why it's good. I feel like I've said this so many times on the channel, but it's always about bringing your product to a global audience. No matter what you think, AEW can cater to the most hardcore of hardcore fans, or sickos, as Tony Khan likes to say. But the reality is that if you want to grow your product, you got to be global. You have to be global. And AEW seems to do incredibly well in the UK. And for them to be in business for 5 years and then not bring a TV taping to their countries, like, it doesn't make sense, right? So WWE's obviously been doing this for a long time. Even TNA for a long time would go out to the UK. I'm glad to see that AEW is finally doing it. You have to remember there's multiple markets to own and earn their business. But at the same time, too, if you are doing so incredibly well in the UK and you have become so incredibly popular in the UK, for you to not have TV tapings in the UK, it's a little bit of a big blow. So I think this is a wonderful thing for AEW, and I think AEW should capitalize on this and do it more often, even if it's not towards the buildup of Wembley Stadium. Obviously, there's logistics and financial decisions that have to be figured out every time they're going to do this, but I'm hoping this experience is a positive one, so that way they can do this a lot more often, a lot more frequently, even if All In isn't happening. And that brings us to our final topic. A little bit of a shocker, maybe. Shane McMahon could very well be joining AEW. It absolutely sounds asinine. It absolutely sounds impossible. It absolutely sounds like a million other things, but the reality is, it sounds like it very well could actually happen. With that being said, this was brought up by Jim Ross and Conrad Thompson, and Jim Ross's co-host Conrad Thompson said on Grilling JR that he heard from a friend who told him that it is not as far-fetched as people think, because Shane McMahon has reached out to AEW or people in AEW for hypothetical interest. Now, the reason why I am talking about this and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Jim Ross brought up the possibility of it happening. The reason why it's not far-fetched is because business is business. Now, I think a lot of people are going to be mixed on this. I'm just going to be so honest. I think some people are going to hate this. Some people will love it. Me personally, I don't really have an issue with it, but I don't also love it, if that makes sense. I don't think it's a bad thing if they brought him in, because I could clearly see the benefit to it. The son of Vince McMahon joining the opposition. Obviously, the headlines and the talk and the gossip and all the drama surrounding it will definitely be big, and people will definitely be talking about it, which in turn puts more eyes on Tony Khan's product. So I see how it makes sense. Now, the reason why I don't necessarily love it is because at the end of the day, Shane McMahon has always kind of been like a novelty act. Shane McMahon, you know, not a bad wrestler, not a bad performer. He definitely, you know, he's definitely hype. He's definitely had his moments in WWE jumping off of crazy shit. I fully expect him to do the same thing in AEW. But the reality is, I don't think this is a long-term investment for AEW. I think this would be more of like a one-off or just maybe like a one-year type of thing. I don't see this as a long-term thing. And I really just want to see AEW invest in its youth. That's what I want. I think there's a lot of guys who had momentum and they lost their momentum. I think Daniel Garcia was one of them. Obviously, we've talked about Wardlow. I really just want to focus on certain guys that I feel like have kind of been put to the side. You know what I mean? But that's why I don't necessarily love it. But do I hate it? Absolutely not. If it happens, I would be very intrigued to watch it and see what happens. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about wrestling. If Shane McMahon joined AEW, what would you guys think? Let me know down below. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.